On the 14th of this month, I had taken the NMAT examination at Chennai in their Red Zone Center. Along with me, Kushal also had taken the NMAT exam at the same slot. So we're going to have a discussion today on what to expect in the NMAT paper, what to look forward to when you go to the center if you're taking it from the test center. For people who are taking it from home through the Examity portal, I have already put a video which you can actually go through and understand how to go about the exam when you're actually taking it from home, right? But this is primarily going to focus on the test that we took up at the Red Sun Center here in Teniyampet in Chennai. And we will look at the paper a little bit in detail to understand what the paper was and what you need to be looking forward to as you go about preparing for the NMAT 2023. One of the things that you will be sure of when you're going for the exam is to carry all the documents that is required as mentioned in your confirmation letter. This includes your confirmation email. Take a printout of that, and even if you're writing from home or whether you're going to the center, you need to carry it and take a printout and keep it with you. The admit card is available on the dashboard, so you can go and download your admit card from there and take a printout of it and keep it with you while you're going for the examination. Apart from that, you will require 2 ID cards. One of them I've carried was my Aadhaar card and the other one was the PAN card. Kushal had carried a driving license with him. So depending on what all documents are available with you, you can check up the confirmation email and accordingly carry the same. Make sure that you don't have any problem when you're reaching the center, because the center is sometimes crowded. And if you're not carrying your IDs, they will not allow you to write the examination. Okay. At the exam center, once you are there and your ID is confirmed, they will take a photo of yours and that photo will be appearing on the screen when you're writing the NMAT examination. Your IDs will be verified and you will be given a COVID declaration form to be filled up before the exam, or it may be given to you to be filled up after the exam. So I was handed over it after the examination. Your admit and confirmation letter will also be verified because it has got the GMAC ID in that. So they will verify that whether it's a genuine ID. So these are the things that you will need. Also, that GMAC ID is going to be your ID that you're going to use while you're logging into the system for the examination, because that's going to be your login ID as well. At the center, you will be provided with a pen or a marker. I was provided with a pen. Last year, most of the students were provided with a marker, erasable marker. This time I got 3 sheets of paper, A4 size paper. Last year, there were people who got the erasable notepad. I heard that this year also in some centers, they are giving a marker and an erasable notepad. But I got a pen and 3 sheets of paper, which was very convenient and was more than sufficient to do the entire test. Some tips from my side: while you're going to the center, do not carry too many stuff with you, because most of these centers aren't that big or does not have the provision to store your stuff. You may have to leave your stuff outside sometimes. Mobile, watches, wallets have to be deposited at the admin. You can't keep that with you. I had my specs on, so they allowed me for that, and I removed my watch and handed it over to them. Apart from my specs, I could not carry anything into the test center. Decide the order of the test beforehand. It makes easy for you to choose. So in NMAT, you know that you can choose the order in which you need to follow, that you need to take the test. I took it as QA, language skill, and then LR, because I'm comfortable starting off slowly. So QA gives you a lot more time to actually sit and do the test, and that's why I started with QA, followed by the language skill, and the third one with LR. You can choose as per your convenience or your understanding of how good you can do the paper with what kind of flow. I'm sure when you're doing your mock test, you should be able to get a hang of it, right? Remember to answer all the questions. Make sure that everything is marked, because this is a adaptive paper. You may land up with a penalty if you skip questions. Okay, so make sure that you can't skip in between anyway the questions, but then at the end, if you're left with 4 or 5 questions and you submit your test, then you're going to land up with a penalty because it's an adaptive test. Once again, NMAT is an adaptive test. It's an easy exam. You don't need to panic. You can write all the do all the questions and finish it off, and you'll land up with a good score. You need to attempt all questions, mark and move ahead if you do not know the question. So don't even bother if you are finding a very difficult question to answer. Just mark and answer, move along. It's not that tough. Don't just waste time on a question. There are plenty of questions to do in the paper. 36 questions in each section is quite a lot in the given time. And I would say if you are going to waste time pondering over a question, that's a very wrong strategy. move ahead, mark questions, keep on moving ahead, and you'll land up with a good score. And that's the strategy to follow. I really don't think there will be a problem in that. NMAT pattern, just to give you again an understanding, we have discussed this so many times, 36 questions in each of the 3 sections, totaling up to 108. Quants has got the maximum time, 52 minutes. You have language skills at 28, logical reasoning at 40, totally 120 minutes. 12 is the minimum that you can get in a section, 120 is the maximum. So 36 is the minimum that you can get overall, and 360 the maximum, right? So that's the range. As I said, 36 questions may not be doable in the given time, but you can always skip and finish off the question by picking up the easy question and finishing it off. So let's start with QA, because that's what I started with in my paper. So in my paper, there were 24 MCQ questions, multiple choice questions. Kushal also had the same. There were 2 sets of DI with 8 questions in total. That's 4 each. And there were 4 data sufficiency questions in my paper. So that's the breakup. 24 plus 4 plus 8, totaling up to a 36. The breakup, if you have a look at, my paper started with a quadratic roots question followed by a logarithm question, and then I had algebraic equation, 2 of them. If you see this entire breakup, you'll see that there were 8 questions that I got from permutation, combination, and probability, and Kushal got 7. So that was, the paper was definitely permutation, combination heavy. I had 5 questions from algebra, and Kushal had 2. Numbers, I had, including set theory I'm talking about, so I had 4. Kushal had 3 here. And if you see this entire part here, percentages, profit and loss, averages, ratio, time, speed, distance, time, and work, simple interest and compound interest, mixtures and solution. So I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions here. Kushal had 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 questions. Very clear in this paper. Arithmetic heavy, permutation, probability, permutation, combination, and probability heavy. 7 questions plus 8, 15 questions from these chapters for me, and 7 plus 11, 18 questions from these chapters for Kushal. Kushal also had a question from calendars. Make sure that you're going back and reading your permutation, combination, probability questions. Most of the questions were easy. There were 1 or 2 tricky questions. Probability questions were actually very easy and very less time consuming, because you could just look at the question, get know how to get the answer, and just calculate. And calculations also were extremely easy to work on. It wasn't tough at all. Okay. Similarly, my percentages, my profit and loss question, average question, the question on time and work, time, speed, distance. My question was not purely on a time, speed, distance kind of a question. It had something to do with distance, but it had nothing to do with speed or time. So it was kind of a arithmetic question. All of them mostly easy, and it was quite doable kind of a question. In the data sufficiency part, both of us got 4 data sufficiency questions. There's a mistake here. So this is going to be 1 plus 1. So I missed out 1 question there to mention. So there were 2 questions in algebra inequalities from my paper, simple interest 1 and divisibility 1. Kushal had 3 from algebra inequalities and 1 from puzzle. These questions, data sufficiency is something that you need to do a little bit practice and go, because it's very conceptual kind of questions, but these questions are easy to do. So the data sufficiency is something that you look forward to in the paper, and attempt every single data sufficiency question, because it's easy and it is not very time consuming also. Data interpretation, both of them, both of the sets that I got were tables, whereas Kushal got a table and a pie chart. Both these questions that I had, question set that I had, were having numbers in 2 digits and 3 digits. But the thing is, some of the questions were a bit calculation intensive. So I had, in this particular set, I did 2 questions, because those are just observation questions. Another 2 questions I did from here. So you can pick and choose the question that you want to do. So there were questions like, which of the following years was the exports easy, exports highest. So, you can just go through and pick up, or you have questions like, in which of the years was the percentage growth in the imports lowest. So these kind of questions you can do in the paper, but there were a couple of questions which were combination of multiple data, so which was not very easy to do at that point of time. And I also felt that you could actually skip those questions, mark some answer there, and go ahead and do some other questions in quants, which were much more easier to handle as compared to the other, DI questions which were present. So I did 4 of them, skipped 4 of them, and Kushal, I think, also did the same. And the key takeaway from this paper is it's a lengthy section. QA requires you to sit there for 52 minutes, 36 questions. It was PNC and probability heavy. It was arithmetic heavy, and DI questions are moderate to difficult. So it's not easy to do all the DI questions. I would say don't even go for that strategy. Look at doing math part because it's easier. Look at finishing off all the DS because it's also quite easy to actually look at the data sufficiency part and finish that off. So that's our takeaway from QA. So let's move on for my second section, which was the language skills section. Now, the moment I get into the language skills section, one of the worries that I had is, 28 minutes and I had to do 36 questions. I'm going to run out of time. And it was a surprise to me that I went through the whole paper and I was left with time because I could finish off the questions really fast. One of the reasons for that is I had 9 analogy questions in my paper, out of which 6 of them were really easy to, and 3 of them were difficult. You need to have a grasp on a little bit of vocabulary to do that. But it was easy. Kushal had 6 here, as you can see. I had 6 questions in grammar, sentence correction. Anybody who has done basic grammar classes or has a good reading habit and understand grammar basics should be able to do all these questions. So there was a sentence given to you, and there were parts of the sentence where there was an error, and you had to choose which part had the error or did it have no error at all. Prepositions, there were 3 of them. So all these 3 questions had 3 sentences given to you, and you had to choose the 3 prepositions missing in these sentences. It was the easiest question of the lot. So I would say this was quite easy. This was easy. Analogy, I would say 6 of them were easy for me. Parajumble, 4 sentences was extremely easy and should not take you more than a minute to do. Parajumble, 5 sentences was easy to moderate. Now, after this, I had contextual words where a sentence was given and a word was missing. Multiple words were missing, 2 of them. And there were also questions in this where, one sentence was missing from that entire paragraph which was given. 6 questions like that. Out of 2 of them had a sentence missing. 4 of them had pair of words missing. The pair of words which were missing were easy words. So it did not require you to have great vocabulary or something like that. It was quite, daily use kind of words. And if you are having a reasonably good vocabulary, you should be able to do this. So 4 to 5 of these questions were actually easy to work on. Coming to my reading comprehension, there were 2 reading comprehension passages, 700 to 750 word reading comprehension. One of my reading comprehension was on space exploration and space tourism actually, and the other one was on history. Now, both these passages were easy read passage. That means you can, if you have time, you can just sit and browse through the passage and you'll be able to understand every single thing written there. It was not tough English at all. It was very easy read. Questions, on the other hand, 2 of them in each passage was direct, which you can just go through the passage and pick up the answer and mark it there. Whereas the other 2 were kind of an inferential answer question. So I would say 4 questions were definitely going to be right if you read the passage properly and you had enough time to read. I read all the passage, did all the questions. I could still finish off the paper before 28 minutes. Key takeaway, sufficient time for the section. Parajumbles are easy to do. RC is 700 to 750 words. Preposition was extremely easy. Contextual word was easy to moderate. So this is, so when I'm saying the entire paper itself wasn't very tough, it was an easy to moderate paper. Anybody good at English should be able to score more than 80 for sure in this section. Coming to the LR section, I had a very heavy critical reasoning section in this. So I had 22 questions there. Kushal also had a similar kind of breakup. I had 2 implicit statement question, 2 weakening of argument question, 2 logical conclusion question. I had multiple questions on facts, strong argument question, assumption question, course of action, and conclusion-based question. So these were the kind of questions which are there in critical reasoning. If you have already done critical reasoning, you will know that these questions are just about reading it, understanding it, marking the answer, and moving ahead. What this actually does is, in a section like LR, where the other questions are going to take time for you, this is a time saver. And as you mark and move ahead, you will be able to cover more questions because there are 22 questions in the critical reasoning area itself. Apart from these 22 questions, I had 2 syllogisms, a puzzle in which I had triangle given like this, and there were numbers mentioned here, and there was a number here. So 4 numbers, and I had to make out how these 3 numbers will, help arrive at this particular number, tally it with this, and then this number here in the middle were missing, and the numbers here were given to me. So that was the kind of puzzle question. I had a set theory question here also, and a question on Venn diagram. Both were easy questions to do. Surprisingly, this year, after a long time, because every time I do the NMAT paper, I find my input-output question really tough. This time I had an easy input-output question with a 2-digit number formation. It was easy to even, go through and understand and figure out the way the logic was being arrived. And all the 4 questions in this set was easy. Similar to the case with the analytical reasoning, I had an analytical reasoning question based on tables, and it had 3 different parameters with 5 different variables. All the statements given were very factual, and you could pick up the statement and then just fill it up in the table, and you should be able to answer all the 4 questions. I also had one question on ranking, which was based on linear, and like some certain number of people sitting, and then M is on the 5th place, and then there is another person from right side, he's on the 8th place, and then they swap, and how many people are there, kind of a question. So LR was mostly critical reasoning oriented, 22 questions there and 14 questions from the other side of the pure LR. So which makes LR actually not that time consuming, because 36 minutes, the time given to you is enough. The 40 minutes is enough for you to actually solve the question. So it's a critical reasoning heavy paper, easy to moderate. 27 to 28 is a fair attempt in this section. Analytical reasoning part is easy. Input output was moderate to easy is our takeaway of the paper. Now let's go ahead and look at what is the expected cutoff. So quantitative ability 24 to 26 should be a good attempt. Language skill 30 to 32 should be a good attempt. Logical reasoning about 30 to 32 should be a good attempt. Expected cutoff for 2023 is 72 to 74 for the quantitative ability section, 76 to 78 for the language skill, and 74 to 76 for the logical reasoning, with a 234 to 236 overall cutoff. Last year's cutoff was 70, 76, 71 at 232, and 2021 it was 76, 76, 76 with a 235. Looks like this year's paper a bit easier than the last year's paper, but probably tougher than the 2021 paper, which was the first time that they had conducted this kind of a paper. So overall, the paper is not very tough. Practice PNC, probability, arithmetic, set theory, practice grammar, analogy, and parajumble, Venn diagram, puzzles, input, output, critical reasoning, because these are topics which you probably have not done in your CAT. Spend 4 to 5 days to practice this, and that should be enough for you to crack this exam. Exam isn't tough at all. Go confidently. I'm sure all of you who have done your job with CAT and with, let's say, 10-15 days of preparing for NMAT and having done 4-5 mock, you should be able to crack and finish off the paper well above the cutoff. I am also getting a lot of query on how much should you be scoring on the official mocks to clear these cutoffs. So official mocks, I have done only one of them. And I think if you're able to crack a 200 to 210 in your official mocks, you should definitely be clearing the cutoff in the actual NMAT paper. There's no doubt, because the official paper looks to me way tougher than the actual paper that I did. So all the best to all of you. I'm sure, all of you are going to do really well. And if you have spent reasonably good time preparing for CAT, and if you have been there working on NMAT for the last 10-15 days, go confidently. There is no stopping you. You're going to crack the exam for sure. All the best, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. Thank you.